If you do a lot of sport, you should take care of your body and supply it accordingly. Protein has many advantages. Muscles are better supplied, and the body can regenerate faster. But there is also an upper limit, and this can even be dangerous under certain circumstances. How closely do you watch your diet? And if you are a sportsman or sportswoman, you are guaranteed to take a closer look than many others. And today we are talking about an important topic that affects everyone involved in sport, nutrition, and fitness. But it is also important for those people who simply want to lose weight and are just on a high-protein diet. There are 5 signs of a protein overdose, which I would now like to discuss in this video. Protein is an important building block for our body, but too much of it can actually have negative effects. So stay tuned for the rest. And now let's take a look at 5 signs you should look out for if you suspect you're eating too much protein and have too much in your system. And I hope that this information will help you to optimize your diet and recognize possible risks in time so you can actually do something about it. Hello, my name is Dr. Tobias Wiegel, and with my YouTube channel, I would like to make a contribution to providing medically understandable and correct information about diseases, their causes, but also about nutrition and sport because these things are very closely related. And if you don't want to miss anything, subscribe to my channel now. We all eat protein every day, and that is absolutely right and also very important for us. Proteins belong to the macronutrients. We also have carbohydrates, fats, and proteins in this category, and proteins are the building blocks for muscles and contribute to the maintenance and growth of muscle mass. An increased need for protein is particularly typical for strength and endurance athletes. This is the case because they often get many more micro tears in their muscles during training than regular people. And these need to be repaired by proteins, these micro tears in your muscles, in order to promote healthy muscle growth. In addition to building muscle mass, proteins also have other benefits for you as an athlete and also in general. You can help your entire body to regenerate after a hard workout with protein. So protein is important for muscle regeneration as it's supporting the repair of damaged tissue. In addition, protein can also boost the metabolism and help the body to burn fat more efficiently. This can, of course, be an advantage for athletes who want to keep their weight constant or regulated in certain areas, especially the body fat percentage of their bodies. But it's also important for us normal people because proteins have a positive effect on body shape. I'll come back to that later. We should not forget that a balanced diet, a diet that includes sufficient carbohydrates, good carbohydrates, and also fats, good fats, is just as important as eating enough protein. However, it often happens that inexperienced athletes or maybe very ambitious athletes tend to eat far too much protein in the hope that this will support their muscles particularly well. But the principle applies here. At some point there is saturation, so to speak, and you can no longer say that a lot helps a lot. In this video, I will present you 5 signs that you can use to quickly find out if it's actually too much protein. Sign number 1, kidney problems. In general, you should not overdo it with protein because too much protein, especially when supplied externally, in other words through protein shakes, can put a strain on the kidneys. Acute problems with the kidneys, for example, make themselves felt as so-called flank pain, here on the side because this is where the kidneys are located. Keyword kidney stones. Those people affected often move back and forth a lot. It is always said that the stone moves, the pain moves, the patient moves. That's also something I often experience as an emergency doctor, of course, when patients have kidney stones or renal colic, for example. Excess protein is converted to urea in the body and must be removed from the body via the kidneys in the urine. And if you already have kidney dysfunction or kidney weakness, known as renal insufficiency, you have to pay special attention because it can lead to further deterioration in kidney function. And another problem is when it affects young people. They may not even know that they have a kidney problem at all. In healthy people, i.e. without kidney problems, there is not yet enough scientific evidence to conclusively assess the relationship between protein intake and kidney function, especially in the long term. Further research is required. What happens if you have an extremely high protein intake for 5, 10, 15, 20 years? We don't know exactly. Nevertheless, the motto, "a lot helps a lot," does not necessarily seem to apply to protein. The fact is that patients with kidney problems are usually recommended to implement a low-protein diet. As doctors, we recommend that patients with kidney failure consume little protein. And from this point of view, there seems to be a connection between a lot of protein and bad for the kidneys. One more tip. If you have a high protein intake, then you should also drink a lot of liquids. This is often forgotten. 3 to 4 liters per day are actually optimal, or to be more precise, 40 milliliters per kilogram of body weight. And this study here mentions an upper limit for daily protein intake of 3.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. And that is actually very, very high. Such high limits really only apply to extreme athletes who are most likely also under good medical care and have trained their bodies their whole lives, i.e., not to ordinary people in the gym. Keyword exclusion of renal insufficiency. Also, interactions with other medications that you may be taking. Studies such as the one I just mentioned show that a permanently increased protein consumption can lead to digestive and vascular problems, and, as I said already, it has also been proven to put a strain on the kidneys and damages them. By way of comparison, the German Society for Nutrition, I just said 3.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. The German Nutrition Society recommends only 0.8 grams, which is actually really low. My recommendation, and many studies say the same thing, 0.8 to 1.5 grams per day. That's good, but keep in mind that there is an absolute maximum of 2 grams per kilogram of body weight, and above all, spread it out over the day, do not eat all at once. And one last tip, very foamy urine is also a concrete sign of an acutely high protein intake. Sign number 2, digestive problems. The next problem in this list is a direct consequence of consuming too much protein. And it doesn't matter whether this comes from conventional food or protein shakes or other high-protein products, i.e. protein bars or whatever else there is. A lot of protein can cause severe digestive disorders such as flatulence, constipation, and abdominal pain. Of course, someone who really wants to build up strength will put up with these things. They don't really care. But please always remember that every body reacts differently and individual symptoms can also occur. For example, some people may suffer from diarrhea, while others may suffer from constipation. And what exactly is the problem here? It could be possible that certain micronutrients, which are also important for our body, are not properly absorbed or processed. Just remember that nobody can give you a blanket recipe for the right amount of protein. With increasing knowledge, however, you learn to pay more attention to your body and notice the symptoms early and can take countermeasures right away. You can tell when you might get digestive problems, constipation problems, and again, I had just mentioned the limit of 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. It is true that the only real way to alleviate the symptoms is to know for yourself where your protein limit is. So if you notice signs of digestive problems or other symptoms, such as kidney problems, for example, you should reconsider your protein consumption and, if necessary, speak to a nutritionist or doctor to optimize your diet accordingly. Sign number 3, dehydration. Sign number 3 follows on directly on the others. And for many people, it even means that it exacerbates an existing problem. Now it's about drinking water. On average, we drink 2 liters water per day. The problem is even worse for recreational athletes. This is the case because they have an increased water requirement because of the sport, which is rarely fully compensated for. Athletes or extreme athletes also know that they should drink a lot and pay more attention to it. But it has to be said, normal people like us tend to drink too little water in our everyday lives. Let's assume you consume a lot of protein, maybe because of a high-protein diet, while at the same time you drink not enough water. This can lead to an increased burden on the kidneys, as your body needs more water to break down and excrete the protein. Our kidneys are, so to speak, our body's sewage treatment plants, and our urine, which can become foamy, as I have just said, is our body's wastewater, so to speak. If you want to get excess protein out of the body, it must be flushed out through the urine. However, if you're not drinking enough water, it can lead to dehydration, which can in turn result in a range of symptoms. It doesn't have to happen. This is a rare case, but it can theoretically happen. And some signs of dehydration can, of course, be thirst, dry mouth, dizziness, headaches. If you notice these symptoms, you should definitely drink more water and try to understand what is causing them. Usually there are underlying causes, because maybe it's clear if you've been sweating a lot, but maybe you're also wondering why you've been needing a lot of water, a lot of fluids lately. And the cause may simply be because you have an increased protein intake lately. It is also important to note that drinking enough water is important for healthy digestion and optimal kidney function. There are many benefits. And I have already mentioned the kidney and digestive problems as well. Therefore, make sure you always drink enough water and keep your protein consumption to a healthy level, 0.8 grams to a maximum of 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. Fortunately, the solution to this is also very simple: drink more water. So with 3 large bottles a day, you are definitely on the safe side and do your body a favor. Otherwise, it is said to be 40 milliliters of water per kilogram of body weight. Sign number 4, weight gain. A high protein content in the diet is often the key to weight loss. That is because protein keeps you full for longer. However, if you consume too much protein, you are at risk of consuming too many calories, which your body can possibly store as fat. This is because proteins are also naturally rich in energy, just like carbohydrates are, and we tend to underestimate these calories. Fat loss advisors always recommend protein, and we often don't even realize that we are actually consuming calories in the end. And if we have a calorie surplus, we basically store this surplus in the form of fat deposits, so to speak. So if you're trying to lose weight, make sure you're keeping an eye on your protein intake, and this is my personal recommendation, stick to a balanced diet. That will work wonders. Protein is much better than carbohydrates for fat loss. Yes, that's right and correct. But the total calorie intake is a figure you should always bear in mind and pay attention to. And ultimately, you can only lose weight with a calorie deficit. This also includes making sure that not all protein sources are the same. That is also important. Some protein-rich foods can also contain a lot of fat and calories. This includes foods such as fatty meat, dairy products, or, for example, walnuts, which I myself love and like very much. But walnuts or nuts do have a lot of calories in the end. You need to know that. Sign number 5, skin problems and tiredness. It is well known that proteins are an important component not only for our muscles, but also for our skin. Proteins, such as collagen and elastin, are responsible for keeping our skin firm and elastic. A healthy skin is the result of proteins, and a sufficient protein supply is therefore important to keep our skin healthy, although the study situation here is also not so clear yet, and further research is required. You can't clearly say that you need so and so many proteins, this forms so much collagen and has such and such benefits for the skin. You can't say that like that. However, our skin suffers from an oversupply. On the one hand, due to the lack of water in the body, but also because we do not use the remaining water optimally. So it is true that a high protein intake can actually end up being bad for our skin. It's actually supposed to flush waste products out of the body with the liquid, with the water, which is what I would have said before. If we consume too much protein now, especially over a longer period of time, this can lead to increased strain on the kidneys as they have to break down the excess protein and excrete it from the body. This means that the kidneys have to work hard. However, if our kidneys are overloaded, they cannot filter the toxins effectively, which can lead to a buildup of waste products in your system. And these waste products can then accumulate in our body and lead to skin problems. These skin problems include things such as acne, skin rashes, and eczema, which of course you want to avoid. So actually, a very high and long protein consumption over a long period of time can lead to these skin problems. Several pimples suddenly appearing one after the other, for example, can be a warning sign you should maybe investigate further. Reduce the number of protein shakes or protein-rich foods you eat for a few days, and you should already see an improvement. And if you do that, you will realize for yourself whether there is a connection. Fatigue is, of course, a consequence of heavy, frequent exercise. After all, we demand a lot from our bodies. However, there are also repeated reports and evidence that a reduction in the amount of protein in the body has released resources that were previously involved in breaking down the distribution and also flushing out excess protein. That is important. Of course, the body was actually preoccupied with breaking down the excess protein, which in turn also put a strain on the body. So if you are noticeably tired, it can also help to skip the daily protein shake or reduce the number of different proteins you consume. Just give it a try and see. Your body seems to be getting enough protein, and not everyone's body can cope with the usual amounts of 0.8 to 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight or a maximum of 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. It's individual for everyone. That's why you should find the optimum amount for yourself, because then you will reward yourself with a good supply of nutrients for your muscles. It is important for muscle growth. For muscle regeneration, good for the body shape, gives a good feeling of satiety and much more. But too much protein can also have disadvantages, and this is often not even mentioned anywhere. And you will most likely also notice that if you consume the right amount of protein, you will naturally improve your well-being, your appearance, and your success in sport. And even if studies cannot currently confirm that protein causes permanent kidney damage, it is important to remember that it has not yet been fully researched what happens to the body when being exposed to a lot of protein over a longer period of time. Quantities of up to 4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day were proven to be safe in this particular study, for example. However, some of the side effects just described will certainly occur, and it's not like you necessarily want these side effects to occur either. Now you are welcome to comment on the video, tell us what you think about this. Thank you very much and stay loyal to me.